Once men know this, all women are finished. Men must watch. Psychology tricks. Why is it that some men walk through chaos with steady nerves and quiet confidence, while others get pulled into drama, arguments, and emotional games until they barely recognize themselves? It's not luck. It's not meeting the right woman. It's knowing how the game is played. Real love doesn't demand you lose yourself to keep it. It's where respect and freedom walk side by side. Once you understand what I'm about to share with you, everything changes. No woman will be able to dangle affection like a reward, push your buttons just to see you react, keep you stuck in a cycle of hope, fear, and confusion, because you'll finally see the pattern. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. I'm going to walk you through 7 core truths that shut down the games and put you back in charge of your own emotions, your own standards, and your own life. But this only works if you decide this is a turning point, not just another video you half watch and forget. So do this with me right now. Hit subscribe, tap like, and then type these words in the comments. I refuse to be blind anymore. That's your line in the sand. That's you saying, I'm done being played with. I'm ready to understand. Once you've done that, stay with me. Because the very first truth is going to shake what you thought love was and show you why, for most of your life, it probably wasn't unconditional at all. Number 1. The difference between conditional and genuine love. Most men walk into love like it's a warm, endless ocean, thinking, she loves me, so she loves all of me, and they never stop to ask what that really means. They assume her I love you covers their flaws, their failures, their low moments, and they cling to this idea of a pure, glowing, unconditional love that will never flicker, but that is not how modern relationships usually work. And you must understand that if you want to be a high-value man who doesn't lose himself chasing approval. Most of what you feel as love today is conditional, tied to circumstances, tied to behavior, tied to what you bring to the table, whether anyone admits it or not. And if you ignore this, you don't just get hurt, you get drained. Think about it calmly but honestly. How does her tone shift when money slows down, when your ambition dips, when your focus blurs? How does her attitude change when you stop pouring constant attention onto her, when you pull back to rebuild your purpose? When the early fireworks of the relationship fade into that quieter space where real life lives, that is where you see what's conditional and what's genuine. Suddenly, the warmth that once felt like sunshine can feel like a dim hallway light, barely on. Suddenly, affection feels heavier, like it's hanging from invisible strings attached to your efforts, your status, your emotional labor. Don't rush to label women as heartless, because that's lazy and false. Many women are loving, supportive, and sincere, but they are also wired to respond to security, consistency, and leadership, and their feelings often mirror the environment you create. When life feels stable, when you are grounded in your masculine energy and steering your own ship with confidence, her love usually glows brighter. When you show up as a high-value man who knows his path, who doesn't beg, who doesn't fold, you naturally attract women who respect that strength instead of exploiting it. But when those stabilizing factors vanish, when you stop leading your own life, when you become needy instead of solid, when you sacrifice your identity just to keep her happy, her behavior will shift, sometimes subtly, sometimes brutally. And you must be awake enough to see it. The real danger for men is not that conditions exist. The real danger is that men refuse to see them because fantasy feels safer than truth. Most guys give endlessly. They pour in time, money, effort, attention, affection, and loyalty with the secret hope that all this sacrifice buys them lifelong devotion, and they whisper to themselves, if I just love her enough, she'll never leave. Don't think like that. Reality doesn't sign that contract. Men keep giving and giving until there is nothing left of their masculine energy, until they feel hollow. Then they look around and ask, why wasn't my loyalty enough? The answer stings, but it's simple, because loyalty without boundaries is not love, it's self-abandonment, and no one respects a man who abandons himself. You must understand that the existence of conditions doesn't make her evil. It just means she's human and responding to incentives. But if you pretend those incentives aren't there, you are lying to yourself. Men cling to the dream that love will always reflect their effort one-to-one, that if they bleed for someone, that someone will bleed for them, too, and that is the fantasy that crushes them. Because when her affection starts to feel transactional, when intimacy seems to appear only when you're winning, they see betrayal where they should see reality. That is the turning point. Once you accept that much of what you thought was unconditional was actually conditional, you don't have to become bitter. You become wise. You stop being hypnotized by sweet words and soft eyes, and you start measuring actions over time. You stop judging her love only by how she treats you at your peak, when you're earning well, looking your best, and overflowing with charm, and you start quietly watching how she behaves when you stumble, when you lose, when you are tired, when life hits you hard. That is where her true alignment with you is revealed. You may realize that what you thought was deep, unconditional attachment was often admiration for your consistency, comfort in your stability, or appreciation for what you provided, not genuine bonding with you as a man at your core. And once your eyes open to that, you can never fully go back to sleep. Don't fear this knowledge. Use it. It gives you power. It forces you to stop overinvesting in anyone who hasn't proven they can stand with you in both sunshine and storm. It reminds you that love is not a blank check. You must stop writing emotional checks your soul can't cash. You must set boundaries. You must observe before you give deeply. You must require reciprocity instead of naively assuming it. Be the man who understands that conditional love doesn't doom you. It simply demands that you stop living blind. If she only loves the version of you that's on top but vanishes when you fall, that is your answer. If her affection rises and falls with your wallet, your status, or your ability to entertain her, then you know exactly what her love was built on, and you must decide if that structure is acceptable to you. When you truly understand this, you stop being a servant to her emotions, and you start being the architect of your own life. A high-value man doesn't cut himself open to feed anyone's emotional hunger. He shares from his abundance, not from his core. He protects his time, his money, his mental focus, and his heart with the same seriousness. He protects his physical safety. That is masculine energy in action, not aggression, not control, but calm, firm self-respect. Don't shut your heart. That only makes you cold and rigid. Instead, guard it with wisdom. Choose carefully who gets access to your deeper layers. Watch how your standards, not your desperation, begin to attract women who value you for more than what you give them in the moment. A man like this doesn't chase approval. He doesn't beg anyone to stay. He knows he is a high-value man because his value comes from his character, his purpose, and his discipline, not from a relationship status. When you embody that, you naturally attract women who are drawn to your grounded, masculine energy and repelled by men who crumble for love. Don't forget, you teach people how to treat you by what you tolerate. If you tolerate love that vanishes when you struggle, you are training the world to see you as replaceable. If you stand firm, if you say, "I will not overgive for underlove," you shift the entire dynamic. That is when the game changes, not because all women are finished, but because the old version of you, the blind giver, is finished. You must become deliberate, cautious, and powerful in how you love. You must stay awake. When a man finally internalizes this, when he walks into relationships with eyes open and standards high, he doesn't just attract women, he attracts women who are capable of meeting him where he stands. And that is the only kind of love worth pouring yourself into. Number 2. The power of your attention, healthy, confident, unshakable. Most men have no idea how powerful their attention really is. They hand it out like discount coupons, tossing it to anyone who smiles in their direction, and then they wonder why no one seems to value it. Don't make that mistake. Your attention is not cheap. It is not disposable. It is one of the rarest and most influential forces you carry as a man. In fact, if you understood how it works through the lens of healthy psychology, not manipulation, not games, you'd see that your attention is the purest form of influence you possess. That is why you must protect it like treasure. Every glance you give, every message you send, every conversation you lean into is energy. And energy is impact. Impact is presence. And presence, when used wisely, is power. Not power over someone, power within yourself. When men try to understand how to fall in love or why someone responds the way they do, they forget that attention is one of the biggest psychology tricks built into human bonding. Everyone feels it. Everyone responds to it. And everyone, especially through female psychology, recognizes its value even when they don't say it. Here's the common trap. When you like a woman, you overdo it. You shower her with comments. You light up her phone with messages. You jump the second she posts a selfie, hoping your praise proves your interest. It feels sweet, maybe even gentlemanlike. But there's a fine line between sincerity and excess. Too much attention, given too easily, loses meaning. That is the nature of human psychology, not just female psychology. Abundance kills value. Scarcity sharpens appreciation. It's not a trick. It's how the human brain works. Women understand this instinctively, not because they're manipulative, but because attention plays a big role in how connection works for them. It's warm. It's an acknowledgement. It's a small spark of "I matter." So yes, attention fuels confidence. Attention can even be a pathway in how to fall in love. But when it comes endlessly, predictably, and without any balance, it becomes background noise. You've seen this play out. The man who's always available becomes invisible. The man who's always calling becomes forgettable. The man who's always chasing becomes uninteresting, not because he's unworthy, but because his presence loses contrast. There is no mystery, no space, no natural back and forth rhythm that attraction needs. He gives so much attention that she stops feeling it. That is the real psychology, not a trick, not a manipulation, just human nature. But watch what happens when a man pulls back in a healthy way, not out of spite, not as punishment, not to create fear, but because he's busy living, growing, building. Suddenly, silence carries meaning. Absence creates contrast. Space awakens curiosity. She starts noticing the gap, not because she's insecure, but because humans notice when something meaningful shifts. She wonders, where is he? What's he doing? Who is his attention now? This is not about making her anxious. This is about making yourself centered. Don't disappear to trap someone. Be occupied because your life matters. That is healthy masculine presence. The truth is simple. The more selective you are with your attention, the more powerful it becomes. When you stop scattering it on anyone who doesn't reciprocate, it transforms. Rarity breeds value. Your glance becomes meaningful. Your compliments carry weight. Your time becomes a gift instead of an expectation. Women don't just hear your attention, they feel it. But here's where many men go wrong. They think being selective means being cold. Don't fall into that mindset. Don't weaponize silence. Don't pretend to be distant when you're really just lonely. Authenticity always wins over tactics. Healthy psychology isn't about withholding affection. It's about giving it consciously, not compulsively. Respect yourself enough to give your attention only where it flows naturally and is appreciated. Respect others enough to avoid using attention as a tool of control. When you do this, you aren't a chaser. You aren't a game player. You're a man with standards. This is the moment the balance shifts. Instead of chasing recognition, you become the man she wants to impress. Instead of begging for validation, you recognize that your validation is meaningful and not something handed out just because someone is attractive. This is how mature men handle connection. This is how healthy attraction grows. This is how you influence female psychology without manipulating it. The more you pour into your own life, your body, your health, your goals, your finances, your peace, the more naturally magnetic you become. Not because you're trying to get women to chase you, but because you're busy becoming the kind of man who doesn't need to chase anyone. That confidence, that focus, that grounded energy is one of the most powerful psychology tricks of all, even though it isn't a trick at all. A man who exhausts himself chasing ends up drained. A man who invests in himself radiates strength. And strength, paired with kindness, paired with discipline, paired with purpose, that combination is irresistible. It's the real formula for how to fall in love in a healthy, sustainable way. So the lesson is clear. Protect your attention. Don't give it to everyone. Be direct. Be intentional. Be wise. When people realize your attention is no longer automatic, they respond differently. They rise to meet you. They lean closer. They value what isn't handed out freely. And it's not because they're manipulated, it's because you're showing up as a man who values himself. When you understand the power of your attention in a healthy, mature, grounded way, You stop living as a chaser. You evolve into a chooser. And that is the moment the entire game shifts, not because women are finished, but because the old version of you, the insecure overgiver, is gone, replaced by a man who knows his worth, a man who gives with intention, a man who leads with clarity, a man who lives, loves, and chooses from strength. If this hits you with the truth you needed, drop this in the comments right now. My attention is earned, not owed. Type it out. Claim it. Own it. And if you want more clarity, more confidence, and more control over your life, like this video and subscribe for the next lesson. Because the moment you guard your attention, the entire game changes. Number 3. Emotional control. A man who masters emotional control becomes a force that modern life cannot bend, and you must understand this with absolute clarity, because Old Stoic wisdom teaches that real strength begins where impulsive reaction ends. And if you want to win with Stoicism win and carry an iron mind into every challenge, you must stop letting external storms dictate your inner state. For generations, men were conditioned to perform emotion instead of mastering it. She ignores you. You chase, she withdraws. You overextend, she gets upset, you escalate. She threatens to leave. You panic, believing desperation proves loyalty. But that cycle never leads to power, only exhaustion, because the real issue is not her actions, but your automatic reactions. And as Marcus Aurelius said, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. Let that line sink in, because it is the foundation of emotional dominance. And if you do not build from this foundation, your emotions will rule you like an unpredictable master. Don't allow that. Don't surrender your agency. Don't hand over control simply because someone else knows which buttons to press. For in modern relationships, modern workplaces, and modern conflicts, emotional steadiness is the new currency of respect. When you react wildly, you become predictable. When you become predictable, you become easy to influence. When you become easy to influence, you lose negotiation power, romantic power, social power, everything. And that is exactly why you must cultivate Stoic discipline, the iron mind that does not flare with anger or collapse under pressure, because Old Stoic wisdom shows that the man who controls himself controls the situation. Women, men, coworkers, strangers, anyone can test your reactions, and they often do without even realizing it. They test your anger, they test your jealousy, they test your insecurity, not because they are villains, but because human beings naturally gauge boundaries through emotional feedback, and every time you explode, panic, or chase validation, you broadcast that you can be steered by external forces. Don't allow that. Don't hand away your steering wheel. Don't become a puppet of your own impulses. Instead, let's build composure so strong that nothing knocks you off center, because when you stop being shaken by silence, mood swings, disagreements, or emotional pressure in any form, the entire dynamic shifts. And people stop using emotional intensity as leverage because it no longer works. That is the moment true respect enters the room. As Epictetus said, no man is free who is not master of himself. So let's make mastery your baseline. Imagine this in modern life. Your partner storms out expecting you to crumble, but you remain calm. Someone tries to bait you during a business negotiation, but you stay analytical. Someone withdraws to trigger your insecurity, but you speak with grounded certainty. Someone threatens to leave or remove approval, but you hold your posture instead of spiraling. This is what emotional control looks like in action, and it is not coldness, cruelty, or manipulation. It is self-respect. You must understand this. Calmness is not weakness. Calmness is tactical strength. Silence used wisely is not avoidance. Silence is strategy. Walking away from chaos is not surrender, it is leadership. When you embody this, you no longer fear loss because you no longer lose yourself. You communicate through steadiness that you will not be pushed, pulled, or twisted by emotional turbulence, and that is magnetic, dignified, and undeniably powerful. That is Stoicism expressed in daily life. That is the iron mind people cannot shake. You must reject the belief that loudness equals strength. Real strength is measured in restraint, self-command, discipline, and unwavering presence. In a world addicted to emotional reactions, the man who doesn't flinch becomes rare, respected, even admired, because people instinctively elevate those who stay grounded when others would break. Don't shout to be heard, stand firm to be respected. Don't beg to be loved, honor yourself to be valued. Don't panic to keep anyone, build a life so strong that anyone who walks away loses more than you do. Old Stoic wisdom repeats this truth: control yourself first, and everything else aligns. So let's bring this into your everyday mindset. Slow your breath, slow your reactions, think clearly before speaking, refuse to act from jealousy, don't chase validation, and don't reward emotional tests with emotional chaos. You must choose leadership over reactivity, presence over panic, intention over impulse. That is how you win. That is how you rise. That is how you master life with an iron mind. Number 4. The reality of options. From the moment a boy becomes aware of girls, he's fed a quiet but destructive myth that women are the prize in some grand competition and he must chase, perform, convince, twist himself into knots, and practically audition just to keep one interested. Don't fall for that lie. It plants desperation deep into a man's psyche, making him believe that losing one woman is equivalent to losing every possibility he'll ever have. And once that fear takes root, it spreads fast. That is when a man starts clinging to the wrong person, tolerating disrespect he never should, shrinking himself just to keep the peace, and accepting crumbs because he's terrified of being alone. But here's the truth that flips the entire script: men have options, too. You must understand that a woman's options are handed to her by default. Youth, beauty, and attention come early and easily. But a man's options? Those are earned. Those are built. And that is exactly why they're more powerful. A young woman can walk into a room and draw eyes without saying a word. A man, on the other hand, has to craft himself. In the gym, he builds discipline. In his career, he builds financial independence. In his character, he builds confidence, skills, and purpose. A man becomes a high-value man through effort, not luck. And because of that, the man who refuses to build stays trapped in scarcity, while the man who builds unlocks abundance. When you carry the mindset that she is the only person who will ever want you, you'll tolerate games, accept half love, and settle for relationships that drain your masculine energy. You'll fear silence, fear space, fear walking away. But once you truly know, and not just hope, that many women would gladly value, respect, and desire the man you've become, you stop begging for love and start choosing it. That shift alone makes you a high-value man because options create freedom, and freedom is the foundation of power. Women can sense when a man is unafraid of losing them. It radiates from him as calm confidence. That presence, that masculine energy, that abundance is exactly what makes him attract women without even trying. Once you finally understand your options, everything changes. You stop chasing like a beggar and start moving like a man who actually knows his worth. You stop shrinking yourself to fit into someone else's comfort zone. You stop negotiating with your own dignity. You stand taller, not arrogantly, but with a quiet certainty that if one woman walks away, another will appear, and more often than not, she'll be a better match. Suddenly, rejection stops being scary. It becomes information. Silence no longer crushes you. It gives you space to think. Endings don't destroy you. They redirect you. A man with options doesn't cling to relationships. He selects them carefully, deliberately. He doesn't beg for respect. He requires it because he knows respect is the baseline, not some luxury he has to earn by overperforming. He doesn't fear loss. He accepts it, knowing that real confidence is built on the ability to walk away. And manipulation? It fails instantly on a man with abundance because he knows he doesn't have to stay where he isn't valued. That is the essence of masculine energy: calm strength, quiet certainty, and the refusal to settle. And that is what makes him naturally attract women without chasing them like his life depends on it. So here's the real lesson. The one society never teaches young men: you must build until you have choices. Don't just hope things will get better, make them better. Invest in your body with discipline, invest in your career with ambition, invest in your skills with consistency, and invest in your mind with purpose. Become a high-value man not for a woman, not for validation, but because that is the path to freedom. And once you finally know you have options, genuine options, you stop living in desperation and start living in power. You stop moving from fear and start moving from self-respect. And that freedom, that abundance, that elevated masculine energy is what makes you untouchable. If this message hit you hard, and it should, make sure you like the video, drop a comment, and share it with a man who needs to hear the truth. Don't just watch and scroll, invest in yourself. Subscribe for more insight on becoming stronger, wiser, and harder to manipulate. Your growth starts with what you tell yourself, so here's your affirmation. Comment below to lock it into your mind and help the channel grow. I build my value, and I always have options. Number 5. Self-respect. Too many men walk into relationships with their arms full: time, effort, money, attention, devotion, yet the one thing they forget to bring is the one thing they cannot live without: self-respect. Don't sacrifice it. Don't trade it. Don't misplace it. A lot of men put romance above dignity, desire above standards, beauty above boundaries. That is the moment they hand over their crown without even realizing it. And once a man hands over his crown, everything else, confidence, power, identity, starts slipping right out of his hands. A man without self-respect is like a kingdom without walls, wide open for anyone to invade, conquer, and control. Women sense it instantly. Female psychology picks up on it faster than you think. They know when a man will bend his principles just to keep them close. They know when he'll ignore lies, excuses, and broken promises. And once they sense this weakness, they test it again and again. That's not cruelty. It's psychology tricks wired into human behavior. If you don't protect your respect, you cannot protect your love. You must understand that love without self-respect is not love at all. It's submission dressed up as affection. Now imagine the opposite, the man who draws clear lines. Not walls designed to shut people out, but boundaries that define how far others can go. He doesn't accept shouting, name-calling, manipulation, or betrayal. He doesn't accept being treated like an option while he gives his all. He doesn't accept half-hearted effort in exchange for full devotion. That man is not cold. He is not rigid. He is not cruel. He respects himself. And here's the paradox most men never learn. When you put self-respect above desire, you become more attractive, not less. You radiate strength, and strength is one of the most powerful psychology tricks in human attraction. Your words carry weight. Your presence commands attention. A woman doesn't question whether you're serious because your boundaries show her everything she needs to know. When a man stands firm in who he is, he naturally understands female psychology better. He stops guessing and starts leading. That's what makes a woman pay attention. That's what teaches her how to fall in love with a man's character, not his desperation. Self-respect transforms the entire relationship dynamic. When you raise your standards, she either rises to meet them or she leaves. Either way, you win. Don't fear that choice. Don't fear that shift. A woman who respects you will rise. A woman who doesn't will run. And both outcomes are gifts. Without self-respect, the cycle is brutal. You tolerate disrespect. You rationalize lies. You accept mistreatment. You shrink yourself to fit into a space that was never big enough for you. You lose your voice. You lose your confidence. Eventually, you lose yourself. That is the slow death of a man's spirit, quiet, gradual, invisible, until one day he wakes up and wonders why he doesn't recognize the man in the mirror. But once you start valuing yourself, everything changes. Your attention becomes selective. You don't give it to just anyone. Your emotions become controlled. You stop reacting and start choosing. Your options expand, not because you're trying to attract women, but because confidence naturally opens doors. And your love becomes stronger, deeper, and more meaningful because it comes from abundance, not desperation. When you value yourself, you learn how to fall in love without losing who you are. You understand female psychology without trying to manipulate it. You use psychology tricks not to control others, but to control yourself, your reactions, your standards, your boundaries. Don't ever think self-respect is optional. Don't ever mistake tolerance for love. Don't allow desire to blind you to reality. You must defend your respect first, because everything else depends on it. Self-respect is the foundation of confidence, masculinity, purpose, and power. Without it, nothing holds. With it, everything aligns. Build it. Protect it. Live by it. When a man stands strong in his self-respect, he doesn't chase love. He attracts it. He doesn't fear losing a woman. He fears losing himself. And that shift, the moment you prioritize your identity over your desire, is the moment you finally understand what true strength looks like. Self-respect isn't just part of the foundation. It is the foundation. Protect it at all costs. Number 6, the power of detachment. Detachment is the quiet power most men never learn, and until you do, you move through life chained to other people's moods, reactions, and approval instead of standing in your own unshakable center. Most men confuse attachment with love. They think obsessing is caring, clinging is commitment, constant texting is proof of loyalty, but it's not. Attachment is dependence. Dependence is weakness. And weakness in a man's frame always gets punished in the long run, in work, in relationships, in life. Old Stoic wisdom has said it for centuries. If you let anything outside of you control your inner state, you have already surrendered. As Epictetus put it, it's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. Detachment doesn't mean you stop loving, stop feeling, or turn cold. It means you stop breaking every time something changes. You stop collapsing every time someone pulls away. You stop handing your emotional power to whoever happens to be in front of you. In modern life, where people ghost, scroll, swipe, and replace each other in seconds, this is not optional anymore. This is survival. You must build an iron mind that does not shatter when a message is left on read, when a woman needs space, when a date falls through, when a relationship ends. You must refuse to let your value rise and fall with someone else's attention. Detachment is knowing you can love a woman deeply, desire her honestly, enjoy her fully, and still say with a calm, steady voice, "I want you, but I do not need you to survive, and I will not abandon myself for you." That is power. That is Old Stoic wisdom translated into daily behavior. That is how Stoicism wins in a world that constantly tries to bait you into emotional chaos. When a man is attached, he becomes predictable. When he is predictable, he becomes easy to read, easy to push, easy to manipulate. Say one wrong word and he panics. Delay one reply and he starts overthinking. Pull away slightly and he chases, begs, negotiates, apologizes for things he didn't even do. That is not love. That is fear dressed up as romance. Don't live like that. Don't hand over your dignity because you're afraid to lose someone. Don't let your nervous system ride the roller coaster of another person's moods. A man with an iron mind moves differently. He is calm. He is grounded. He is not desperate for reassurance because his worth is already decided inside his own chest. As Marcus Aurelius said, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Detachment is simply you finally believing that line. In the gym, you don't get strong by clinging to the bar, you get strong by controlling your own body under pressure. Relationships are the same. You don't gain respect by clinging, pleading, or performing. You gain respect by holding your line. Set standards. Enforce boundaries. Speak plainly. Be willing to walk away from what disrespects you. Let's be clear. Detachment is not a game, not manipulation, not some cheap psychology trick to make women chase you. It is self-respect in action. It is Old Stoic wisdom made modern. Focus on what you can control, your thoughts, your actions, your character, and let everything else be exactly what it is. When you live this way, Stoicism wins again and again because you stop losing energy to drama you never needed to be in. Women feel the difference immediately. They feel it in your tone when you say no and actually mean it. They feel it in your silence when you refuse to argue over nonsense. They feel it when you don't chase after being tested. You don't panic. You don't beg. You don't audition for a role in someone else's life. You listen, you respond, and if it no longer aligns with your values, you leave. Quietly. Decisively. That's the energy of an unshakable mind that refuses to be dragged into chaos. In the age of social media, where attention is currency, Most men sell themselves cheap just to avoid being alone, but the man who practices detachment becomes rare, and rarity is attractive. Don't misunderstand this. The goal is not to finish women or beat them at some imaginary war. The goal is to stop being controlled by your own fear of loss, so you can meet women as an equal, not as a beggar. As Nietzsche said, he who cannot obey himself will be commanded. If you do not command yourself, your emotions, your focus, your time, someone else will. So command yourself. You must become the man who can enjoy love but survive loss, who can give affection but keep self-respect, who can commit but never collapse. Hold people lightly, not tightly. Give them the freedom to choose you, and give yourself the freedom to walk away. In that space, genuine connection can actually grow because you're no longer choking it with fear. Old Stoic wisdom, repeated in a modern tongue, is simple: control yourself or you will be controlled. Let Stoicism win inside you first, and the outside world will adjust around that frame. Build an iron mind one decision at a time. Every time you don't double text and panic, every time you say no to disrespect, every time you stay calm instead of exploding. Don't wait for permission. Don't hope to feel ready. Start now. Detach from the outcome. Attach to your standards. And watch how your relationships, your confidence, and your entire life begin to move in your favor. Number 7. The laws of masculine presence. You can be rich, ripped, stylish, even clever, but if you don't have presence, none of it lands the way you think. Women might notice you, but they won't feel you. And that is the difference. Presence is the quiet force in the room, the invisible field that makes people slow down when you speak and pay attention when you say nothing at all. Don't confuse presence with being loud, flashy, or constantly on. That's performance. Presence is the opposite. Presence is that grounded calm where your nervous system says, I'm good. I'm solid. I'm not chasing. You must understand this if you truly want to be a high-value man and attract women in a way that feels natural, not forced. Masculine presence is made of stillness, confidence, direction, purpose, and depth. Stillness means you don't fidget with your phone, your drink, or your words. You're not scrambling for the next clever line. You're there, fully. You listen. You breathe. You let silence exist without panicking. Don't rush to fill every gap with small talk. That is the habit of a man who feels unworthy of the space he's standing in. Be the man whose pauses say more than other guys' speeches. Confidence here is not about bragging. It's the relaxed certainty that you'll be okay no matter how the interaction goes. She stays, she goes, she likes you. She doesn't, you remain you. You must stop tying your worth to her reaction. A high-value man does not need constant validation. He is validation for himself. That's what gives your masculine energy weight and stability. Direction is another pillar. A man with presence knows where he's headed, even if the path isn't perfect yet. You don't drift through life waiting for someone else to decide what happens next. You lead your day. You lead your choices. You lead your mood. Don't wait for a woman to give your life meaning. That is the job you were supposed to give yourself. When you have direction, women can feel it, even if you never brag about your goals. It's in the way you stand, the way you look at people, the way you move. Purpose is the engine behind that direction. It's not just, I want more money. It's, I'm building something. I'm contributing. I'm becoming better. Be the man who wakes up with something to do that matters to him. When you live this way, you naturally attract women because your life already has a pulse, with or without them. Your masculine energy stops feeling needy and starts feeling inspiring. Then comes depth. Depth is what separates you from the cardboard cutout of a man. It's your ability to feel without being ruled by feelings, to talk about real things without turning it into a therapy session, to hold a woman's emotions without collapsing into them. Don't be the guy who shuts down or jokes every time something serious comes up. That is emotional laziness. You must be able to stay present when she's upset, when she's insecure, when she's testing if you're really as strong as you look. A high-value man doesn't argue to win. He listens to understand, responds with clarity, and sets boundaries without drama. That quiet strength is exactly what makes you attract women on a deeper level, not just for a night, but for genuine respect. Women don't fall for the man who shouts the loudest or posts the most. They fall for the man whose silence feels like gravity. They might flirt with the clown, but they remember the king. Presence is the difference between trying to impress and naturally commanding respect. Don't chase attention. Be the man whose energy makes attention come to him. That is masculine presence in action. When you master it, your words carry weight because you don't waste them. Your actions create certainty because you follow through. Your decisions inspire trust because they aren't based on fear. You must understand, presence turns you from someone she likes into someone she respects, and respect is the root of all lasting attraction. Without it, everything else is temporary. With it, your masculine energy becomes something she can relax into. And once you truly embody this, the stillness, the confidence, the direction, the purpose, the depth, you don't just attract women, you reshape the way women experience you entirely. That is what makes you a high-value man in the real sense, not just in quotes on the internet, and that is the point where you stop playing games and start living as the man you were supposed to be. So, fellas, if you're still here, thanks for sticking with me till the end. Let me leave you with this. At the end of the day, these truths aren't about winning against women. They're about understanding yourself. When you know your value, when you guard your attention, when you master your emotions, you stop living life on autopilot. You start showing up as a man who moves with intention, confidence, and self-respect. And here's my honest advice. Don't just hear these truths, live them. Start with one. Practice it. Let it shape you. Because once you take control of yourself, the games fall away, and what's left is real connection, real clarity, and real power. Thanks for watching, brothers. If this message helped you, hit subscribe, drop a comment telling me which truth hit you the most, and share this with someone who needs it today. Stay sharp, stay grounded, and I'll see you in the next one.